I want to welcome to the stage, please join me as well, Alice Malthouse, who's Senior Account Manager at NMPI. Davis, up you come, Alice. David Madison, Associate Director, Retail Leisure Sector at HSBC. Derek Freer, Managing Director at WebGains. And Simon Boyce, Head of Digital Performance at Lovehoney. Round of applause for our panel, please. So the first thing is, you're not going to get comfortable on these seats, are you? We're going to keep you on your toes with these. So we've heard a lot about change over the last 10 years and some change that's coming in the next 10 years. We'll work down the panel and then back up a little bit. What do you think, Alice, we'll start with you if you don't mind. The question has just disappeared, but what do you think is going to be the big consumer trends affecting marketing both now and into the future?
So I think some of the others are going to talk about Amazon, but one thing I want to talk about is video, which I know Ian mentioned earlier. So a lot of people are changing the way that they consume media, and lots of people are going to YouTube, even to look at reviews. So I was on holiday earlier this year, and someone was on in the hotel that I was, filming around the hotel so they could put it on YouTube, and so people could look at kind of reviews there. So I think that's one place where we need to make sure that we're appearing on is YouTube, and Google have recognised this and released lots of new formats as well. So that would be mine.
Very good. So you've all conferred on this question before, I understand. Right? Okay.
I personally say, not my area of expertise, but Instagram. Instagram's where it's at. The gram, doing it for the gram. Insta Checkout, which I know is live in the US, it's not live in the UK yet, but we see that as transformational. It's another channel for retailers to utilise and dominate. And
so being able to purchase within Instagram?
Yes, if you don't push on Instagram, push to a third-party website, 50% drop off straight away. So being able to go straight through, I think, will be transformational, in my opinion.
Right. When do you think we'll see that here?
Well, the last update was in March.
Right.
So we'll see, but I know Burberry and Gymshark are currently using it in the US.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's only a matter of time before it hits the UK.
Right. Derek, what do you think?
We've covered video and we've covered imagery, so what's left? I think from my perspective, I'm seeing consumers going back to basics. From quite even over the past few years, we've seen so many changes and so many different things, and I think people can be getting a little bit confused about everything that's going on and all the different options that they have. I think we're going to see consumers taking on what's going on with the likes of Amazon and Google as well, ordering by voice. But to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me. Marketing's cyclical. We've seen this over and over again, and I just see consumers going back to basics.
Mm-hmm. Simon.
And then for me, I think one of the big changes that we've seen, particularly in recent years, in large part because of the rise of marketplaces, is a change in customer loyalty. And so where it used to be that customers would have the brands that they would always be going to, they would repeat purchase time and time again. We certainly see that starting to fragment now. People are a lot more price conscious, but also a lot more proposition conscious. You know, Amazon has same day delivery in some places. So I think it requires retailers particularly, but all brands, to really start thinking a lot more about who they're talking to and how they can lure them back.
Even 2-hour delivery in some examples.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some places. There was a question asked earlier on, which was, is acquisition or retention more important? What's your view on that, Simon?
It is not one or the other. I think it's interesting. Lovehoney restructured earlier this year and created 2 roles, one of which was a new head of acquisition, one of which was a new head of retention.
Right, okay.
So they were seen as an equal footing, equal importance, and both needing a focus this year.
Absolutely. Okay.
Is that a cop-out?
No, that's a good answer. Does anyone disagree with that?
I mean, I look at even our internal team and I see how many salespeople we have in comparison to how many services we have when we're looking at B2B. and so therefore, I'm always going to lean on the side of retention. I think if you've got people that you know are always going to be there for you, it at least sets the standard. And then you can look at getting the new guys on board after that to improve things.
David, do you see any trends or companies doing it particularly well one way or the other?
Not specifically in that much detail, to be honest, but I think retention is key, especially during this phase of the cycle. You need to retain your customers, look after your customers, and then anything above that is a bonus, is the way that we're seeing it at the minute.
Alice, what techniques are you seeing being effective in promoting retention, particularly in the Q4 period, perhaps customers who purchased last year?
Yeah, I think all of your first-party data is obviously really important, and especially building awareness of your brand in the lead up to Q4. And then once these users have been exposed to your ad or clicked on your ad and gone to site, you can then start creating audiences of these users so that you can contact them again later on and show them your offers for Q4.
So, David, we can't get away from Brexit. And people may have seen the discussions yesterday, which were, let's say, interesting. HSBC, no doubt, have got lots of internal communications on Brexit. What do you think the effect of Brexit is going to be on Q4, if any?
It's already had a detrimental impact. Like, you look at March, that didn't happen. Retailers stocked up, spent a lot of money stocking up, and it didn't happen, and then had to try and get rid of all that stock. And if consumers didn't want that stock, you had to discount that stock. So you're not only trying to get rid of it, you're discounting it, diminishing the value of your brand almost at the same time, and then the same thing's happening again. And we see it from the financial perspective, where it's causing distress. Like, you're using liquidity that you don't have to use, and the strongest operators with the strongest balance sheets are the ones that are going to survive this period, and there's going to be fallout. It's just, this is possibly the worst time to have, like, 31st of October, who would have thought it? Halloween. For food retailers, especially perishable goods, it's just the worst possible timing, and I think it's going to have a major impact.
Do you think it had an impact on Thomas Cook?
Say again?
Do you think it had an impact for Thomas Cook?
Yeah, no, definitely. The travel and leisure industry definitely was impacted by Brexit, people putting off and booking last minute. And, yeah, people are booking last minute at a discount, and that's impacting margins again and liquidity, etc. So it's all having an impact.
I'll come back to that topic, but what can, open question really for the panel, what can advertisers do, businesses do, to mitigate the Brexit effect that David's just spoken about?
So I think for us, it's a principle of kind of transparency, and I run the risk of now sounding like everybody on the news that I shout at every night when they drop the word uncertainty in there. But yeah, by very definition, uncertainty makes it very difficult for us to plan precisely what we're going to do. What we have agreed, though, is that we're going to maintain an open, sort of honest, transparent, frank communication with customers. You know, if deliveries are hampered by a couple of days, we'll surface that on the homepage. We will manage that expectation. If we struggle to get a product in at the time that we were expecting to launch it, then we will be quite open about that. And I think that as much as anything, it's just sort of trying to consider our customers as grown up enough to sort of sympathise with us on this. You know, it's not something that businesses have done to people. It's not something people have done to businesses. We're kind of on the same side of this one. So I think for me, the key is open communication.
Yeah.
Consumers aren't stupid. You know, if they've watched the news at any point over the past 3 years or read a newspaper at any point in the past 3 years, they'll know that this is happening. And I think people are appreciating through the various warnings that have come out that there may well be elements of delays or issues, and that honesty and transparency is something that's going to be able to get you through that. But I also don't think that advertisers are going through the same process as they did in March, because in March they've had it, they've seen it, it didn't happen. And what advertisers these days don't want to do is have to try and juggle the stock issues around Brexit, the stock issues around Q4, Christmas, and then moving into the new year as well. So I think with the way things have gone, a lot of people are approaching this as a you know, the boy that cried wolf for the second, the third, the fourth time. And I think the not necessarily the impact on the businesses, but the actions that are being taken are reducing every single time this happens. And I think that's actually more dangerous than anything.
Yeah. With this in mind, and talking about discounting earlier on as you did, David, and again, an open question, should brands be engaging in Black Friday this year?
Yes.
David, go ahead. Yeah, Alice, yes.
Who wants it?
Can brands afford not to? I mean, you know, I won't lie, in an ideal world, I would have nothing to do with Black Friday. You know, if I could avoid it, I would. The simple fact is I work in a sector where all of my competitors are doing it.
Yep.
You know, they're all planning to ramp up their activity, strengthen their offers, and you know, trade margin for volume at that time of year. So for me, it's one of those that it means you're duty bound to do so. If I had the good fortune to be alone in my sector and, you know, I had no competition, there was no alternative, then no, I would prefer not to.
Right.
The honest answer.
Yep.
No, I agree with what Simon's saying. If you're not doing it, then your competitors probably are. But you don't necessarily have to make a new Black Friday deal. We see some of our clients just repackaging their existing sales as a Black Friday offer, so people think they're getting a good deal. But people are still in the mindset to convert at that time, so you need to be there for your consumers.
David?
Yeah, no, I have to agree. You have to be in it to win it.
Yeah.
And we did some research last year where I tracked 80 websites, looking at when they went on sale, when they didn't go on sale. And the week before Black Friday, out of those 80, probably I think 65-70% of those were already on sale. Some kind of discounting strategy or whatever. Then over the weekend, that went up to 85%. And then the week after, on Cyber Monday a week, that went down to 45%. But it's a 2-week period of discounting. And then going back to saying consumers, I don't think they get the credit that they deserve, because I know you're saying repackaged sales strategies from previous. The consumer knows that they're getting a good deal generally. I know if I'm getting a good deal. I know that for a fact. So I think making sure you've got a clear strategy and the consumer knows that they're getting a good deal. Like a good example of that, Selfridges, who have a 1 day literally on off. They go on sale on the Friday, go off on the Saturday. Clear strategy, absolutely nails it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it's don't concentrate too much on what your competitors are doing, because that will just lead to this race to the bottom that everybody's worried about when it comes to Black Friday, and that one person reduces their prices by 10, so the next guy does it 12, then 15, and it gets worse and worse. Concentrate on your own situation. Concentrate on what you can afford to give away. You don't want to be losing money over that period just to gain interest. But there's no copy and paste solution in this. It's all dependent on what your margins are, what you're looking to achieve from it. And remember, you've still got December and January still to come. So it's but it's very much specific to what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So I was just going to add one more thing. Then most good retailers have already planned Black Friday just after the last Black Friday. Having a clear strategy again, having bought the products where you know you can squeeze the margin on it. I don't think everybody knows that, but you should be doing that, whereas previously it was a knee-jerk reaction like that, and knee-jerk reaction kills your margin and kills your business eventually.
I think the point I made earlier on when we were talking together was that Black Friday for us should be one of the quietest days of the year. From the services side of things, because unless you're in warehousing, where you're definitely going to be busy, you should have all this planned out well in advance. Black Friday should be a case of dealing with any last second issues and hopefully seeing the pound or dollar signs appearing on your reporting.
I do think, though, that there's a real value in having the courage of your convictions over a key trading period, whether it's Black Friday, Christmas, whichever one it is. Because typically if you've been planning all year a specific event, you've modelled all of your margins around those products, you've got this plan, and all of a sudden you realise your competitors are shouting 12% off where you were only 11% off. That's okay. Your plan was a good plan all year round. It remains a good plan. And as Derek says, if you don't hit quite what you wanted on Black Friday, well, then you've got December. And if you don't do it in December, you've got January. There is always another opportunity. I think it's so easy to obsess around that one weekend, albeit now a 5-day weekend or indeed a 2-week weekend. But there's the other 50 weeks of the year still.
I think that's a point about consumers as well, is that consumers are beginning to realise this as well. It's not all about Black Friday. It's almost, again, going back to my earlier point of things being cyclical, it used to be the Christmas period was the big period. I think last year we saw some areas of this industry dip a little bit over the Black Friday period and then actually increase again over Christmas. So there is much more there, and I think consumers are appreciating that they're not going to spend all their money on Black Friday now. There's more time to do it and possibly better deals coming up later in the year.
I think another interesting fact as well, alluding to some of the presentations we saw earlier about just the rise of internet connectivity across the world. Black Friday is not the largest retail day of the year. Singles Day is the largest retail day of the year. And I think that it's all too easy to obsess in a sort of a Eurocentric Black Friday obsession. And certainly if you're a global brand, there's a whole other event out there that's considerably larger.
And is anyone on the panel taking advantage of Singles Day or have done?
This year is the first year that this sort of realisation has dawned. So what we're going to try and do this year is some test and learn activity particularly. So try through a few different channels, few different mechanics. We're the first to hold our hands up and say it's something we've not done before. But we certainly believe that what we do this year should then immediately inform our strategy for next year.
certainly something big from our side. We've got a lot of advertisers that are either based in China or have, they're looking for Chinese consumers within the UK and with the EU, and it's become a big deal for them as well. But looking solely UK, it's nowhere near the same size that we're at yet. But we've seen increases year on year, and fully expect that to continue. As has been alluded to earlier on in the day, the way things are going, things are moving east. So what's happening east is then going to move west, and this is going to become a big deal for us moving forward.
Yeah, quite a few of our clients at NMPI are also trying to push ads out at Singles Day, but I don't think enough focus is made on it at the moment. So I think over the years there'll be much more of a focus and much more planning towards Singles Day.
Yeah. David, are you seeing any brands doing really well in relation to Singles Day?
I'd have to defer to my Asia Pac colleagues, to be honest.
Okay.
Now, from the UK perspective, obviously the luxury brands get involved, but UK retail generally, it's not big.
So predominantly luxury
many
brands.
of my radar.
Yeah. Derek, there's a question here with your name on it. Can you tell us more about what you mean when you say going back to basics earlier on, if you can remember?
Thanks for pulling me up on that, whoever that was. I really appreciate that one. Yeah.
You're welcome.
So
there's more here for you as well. So.
Brilliant. I can't wait. How long's got? Right, okay. how can I expand this answer out? So when I think going back to basics, I think people are looking for a single place to go and get things. So, you look back 20, 30 years ago, people wanted to go to an Argos, or people wanted to go to a big Asda and go and pick things up. So it alludes more to the wanting a single place that they can go and buy whatever it is that they need to achieve, and not just through Amazon, but through the likes of what NMPI and what competitors are doing when it comes to the CSS space and Google as well. I think people are more interested in just finding things in one particular position and taking it from there, rather than putting the effort into to put a huge amount of effort into going through loads of different sites to find it.
Good. I'm going to stay with you, actually.
Brilliant.
Because there was another one I saw, which is, where is it?
Where's your barber?
Huh? Where's your barber jacket?
What have you been seeing for the past 20 minutes?
I've lost the question. We're a couple of days away from, I've lost your question. We're a couple of days away from Q4. When should brands be thinking about and enacting on their strategies for Q4? Alice?
Planning or actually pushing them out?
Both of those things.
In terms of planning, most of our clients have had their Q4 meetings already, and that's just because so many teams need to be involved. Right. So I know Farah was talking about the conversationalist ads earlier. If that's something that you were looking to test, you can't roll this out late. You need to plan for it really early because so many teams are involved. As well, maybe for Black Friday, you might introduce a microsite. And then you'll need to make sure that you've got all the tracking in place for that as well. So you need to make sure that you're planning as soon as possible and then starting to roll things out in the next few weeks, really, just to make sure you're building brand awareness for Q4.
Just have to agree, planning should have already happened, and your buying's already been done, it's already been stocked, it's already coming into the UK, so if you haven't done it, you're far too late.
But you need it before the 31st of October.
Exactly, and your strategy should be well planned, but Black Friday, etc., you got Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and all that. But one thing that we see more and more now with the digital kind of age in the UK is that one stock single solution, making sure you can actually fulfill that demand on Black Friday, whereas if you've got 12 million, 15 million quid's worth of demand and not being able to fulfill that because you don't know where your stock is, it's one thing we see our clients now doing more and more, investing in the software infrastructure to make sure they can meet demand.
I'm going to change track on a question here. So we talked about hitting 7 billion people on the planet, 8 billion, and of course the environment is a hot topic, as it rightly should be, and there wasn't a pun intended there. The question here is, how do you see the drive for more sustainable, ecologically friendly products and business practices changing Q4 strategies?
Do you want to take that, Simon?
Happy to do so. Yeah, I certainly think that environmentalism is a growing consumer demand. So, in that same spirit of fostering loyalty, I think the brands that do a bad job run the risk of hemorrhaging their customers that much faster. It's certainly inexcusable not to be working towards plastic-free packaging now. Those of us, or those of you, more accurately, who are in a sector where your products can be recycled, obviously, it's incumbent upon us to be doing this. Lovehoney have to take a slightly different tack because a lot of the products that we sell are of a medical-grade silicon. You're not permitted to recycle it. Right. So we're actually starting lobbying activities now. So we actually feel that business should be a driving force behind this. So it's something that that we actually want to try to pioneer rather than be forced to react to. Because actually, when you're told to do something, if you don't do it fast enough, the PR fallout is significant and rapid.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, it's all about the Greta Thunberg generation now, and you see what's happening there and what's happening with the school kids just now striking. I wish I had thought of that when I was at school. Good idea. But from our perspective, we're using it within marketing as a tool because it's becoming really important, and one of the top ways to engage with these people, with these guys that are finding this more important to them as they go about their lives. So having the stamp on your site or on your marketing saying that this is something, we've been shown by a professional body that this is something that means something to us, having an environmental policy that you can rely on, and not being afraid to use that in your marketing materials. I think that the last speaker said something that people can tell when it was wake washing, I think it was. People can tell when you're saying something for the sake of saying it, but people can tell when you're being realistic about it, and having the actual data on site to show you're being realistic about it and having it available for people to view is a really big thing now.
So I was going to say, at least it's on the agenda now. For every retailer, it's on the agenda. It wasn't previously, but the thing that's going to drive it most is you guys, us, consumers. Until people are willing to pay that extra 5-10% for something that's sustainably sourced, it's not going to happen as fast as we want it to. So I think as soon as the consumers can do that, will do that, the change will happen quicker, but we're not there yet. Even though people talk about it, we're not quite there. We're not seeing it. Although ASOS, Boohoo's are starting to drive that change, particularly ASOS, Boohoo less so, but they are getting into it a little bit better.
Yeah. Alice?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a way to stand out from your competitors, similar to what Derek was saying. You should definitely use it in your marketing materials to stand out from other people. And this, again, is something that our clients do, because it's a way, if not going to this person, then come to us because we're doing this sustainably. So it's definitely something to use.
Final question, quick fire one. What was the last thing that you purchased that was influenced directly by marketing? Down the panel.
A book, because an influencer was reading it on Instagram.
On Instagram, okay.
I'm ashamed. Amazon Echo.
Really? Amazon. How were you influenced by it?
All the adverts on British Bake Off.
The last meeting I had was with Love Honey, so I'm not going to say. But no, in all seriousness, from a marketing perspective, it was something that I bought having seen an advert on the Underground. So me being a traditionalist, that was it, and it was actually the services of an estate agent. So the first one was more exciting than talking about an estate agent.
And I honestly can't remember the specific product, but I guarantee it would have been because Amazon said that people who bought this thing you actually wanted also bought this thing that you possibly don't. But I am a sucker for the associated.
Right, and that was it. Well, thank you very much, panel. That was very interesting and entertaining. Please welcome in, thanking our panel for that.
Cheers.